engine.
Hello folks, and welcome to this, a very special edition of Paddock Pass. As you can see, there's no pit lane behind me, and as you can hear, no roar of engines, and that's because they've set me free from the F1 paddock to escape here to the countryside and to the headquarters of Formula One's newest team. Now, it's not
blah, 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 blah.
every day we get to pull back the curtain and look behind the scenes at an F1 team. Rarer still that we get to talk not only to the team owner, but also the team's lead driver. But what makes this place extra special is that the owner and lead driver are one and the same person. Now, it's been an interesting 12 months, and we all know a number of the regulation changes which were due to come into effect this year have been delayed until next. Some, though, are still seeing the light of day, amongst them the all-important budget cap, which gives some of the smaller teams a little further down the order, potentially, the opportunity to compete with the bigger teams. Good for them, but great for us as viewers. But
I've seen no sign that comes into play in any way in the game.
Rules. Do they see them as a challenge, a hurdle that needs to be overcome? Perhaps they see them as an opportunity to disrupt the status quo, a chance to come out swinging and to carve their name into Formula One history. Well, I had the opportunity to ask them these very questions just earlier today, and here's what they had to say.
Yes, here's what I had to say.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting us here today.
Even in the video game, I got a pot belly.
Behind the scenes. As you might expect, I've got about 1 million questions, so let's jump straight in. It's been a long time since we last saw a team owner take their own car onto the track, and the sport's changed enormously in the intervening years. How are you going to handle the responsibilities of both managing and driving for a Formula One team?
This isn't just about me. This is about my team, and I'm behind them 100%.
Let's
Together,
talk about your
we're
teammate.
unstoppable.
Now, it's clear they're excited to have signed with you, but tell me, what is it that you think they bring to the team?
We've seen what they can do on paper, and I see a lot of potential in them.
So you've obviously been putting a lot of work into the car. I know it's early days, but how do you expect it to feel out there?
The chassis balance is incredible.
Most of the other teams can boast years of experience in Formula One. Where do you see the opportunities to make those vital performance gains you need to put you within reach of the other cars?
A fresh pair of eyes can find solutions other teams haven't seen, and we've found some unique ways of reducing drag.
Ultimately, your success this season is going to come down to whether you can take positions from the other drivers. What is it about your car that's going to give you that edge in those battles?
We've developed an incredibly light car. This helps with both top speed and through the corners.
And finally, with so many specialist departments working together here at your headquarters, and with such an important deadline coming up, who's getting that coveted Teacher's Gold Star? Which group do you feel the most proud of right now?
The attention to detail that the chassis department has had is an inspiration to the whole team.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to get an insight from you and, of course, to see around the headquarters. Thank you for today. Really appreciate it. And thank you all at home for watching as well. We'll see you very soon.
Did you believe any of that shit? Well, here we are, F1 2021, with all the DLCs engaged, including the 3 new tracks. And as you see, we are taking on the My Team career mode again. I've reduced some of the assists from when I played this in F1 2020. The pit assist and remaining assists are on. We're only traction control medium, and I'm driving with manual transmission. We're doing full practice and qualifying format with 50% length races. We'll be doing 65 AI. I was as high as 80 AI in F1 2020, but the AI is a bit tougher here. And with me driving manual transmission and reduced traction control, I have trouble keeping the back end from becoming the front end. But aside from that, we're going fairly hardcore with no flashbacks, regular damage, not simulation, just regular damage. And of course, we start off with durability and chassis high. I was trying to go for a bit of aerodynamics, but that didn't come through very well. Starting out in this session, we are pretty much middle of the grid, level pegging with Aston Martin, and ahead of at least 4 other teams. So hopefully we can keep that up as we go down the R&D tree. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead to see how I did qualifying for the first race of the season, the Bahrain Grand Prix.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin,
Pole
let's have
by
a quick look at
8/10.
those who will be fronting the grid. Old-timer Perez and Valtteri Bottas. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy.
Well, thank you.
Looks like you had a great qualifying session. It must be a relief being that far up the grid.
Well, it's no surprise our car is quick out there. The aero team have worked wonders.
It looks like you've really been focusing on research and development this season.
Our chassis has really improved through the season. It's fantastic now.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And I'm not going to hold first place because I'm terrible at the starts in this game. The automatic start assist is apparently not available, or at least not something I can turn on in this game. So I don't have the same advantage I have in F1 2020, when I could literally just run away off the start from the
Months of rumour and
cars.
speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10.
It's turn 8 that I'm having
A
trouble
new
in, not
season
10.
then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as we get another year of Formula One underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice. They've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Oldtimer lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Vettel, Yuki Tsunoda and Ocon, Stroll, Raikkonen, George Russell and Mick Schumacher, Latifi, Galeal, Mazepin and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
I'd misremembered and thought that a one-stop softs to hards was going to work. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so it's going to be at least a two-stop. And so here come the lights. Everybody's ready to go, and we're underway. And yeah, quite a lot of wheel spin right off the start. I'm still kind of shitty at getting a standing start going. But somehow or other, only Checo Perez got around me. Well, there's Hamilton, but I was able to cut back across him into T3, or T2 rather, and up to T3. And there we go, chasing Perez and leaving the rest of the crew behind me, or so I hope. Now, in case the fact that I made pole position didn't tell you this, I'm already pretty familiar with this track and how it handles, and so I've got good pace when I'm in open air. The problem is that I am very poor at dealing with traffic, especially heavy traffic. I can just about handle getting past one car, but put 3 or 4, or God help me, 19 cars in front of me, and I am pretty near useless. Come here, Perez. I want to have a word with you. And that word is understeer. I I lost one opportunity to get around Perez, but here I am coming up for a second one, coming in onto the final straight. We don't have DRS yet. It'll be available on the next lap, but I've still got Slipstream and ERS, and I'm pouring it in, trying to make up the distance, catch up to Perez, and hopefully send it past him. Unfortunately, I misjudged where Perez was going to brake, and bang, right into the back of him.
Damn it. Little damage to my front wing.
I decided not to pit immediately because I would be pitting in a few laps anyway to get off of these used soft tires. But in the process, I forgot that I had the front wing damage, and so I wasn't really doing anything other than trying to stay ahead of Hamilton and prevent Perez from getting too far away from me. Of course, as you see, he was already a second further ahead of me a lap and a half later, while Hamilton is trying to send it right up my butt. Fortunately, he thinks better of it coming into lap 4, T1, and so I'm just about able to get a better turn around the corners because the AI are nerfed. In F1 2021, like in F1 2020, the top speed of the AI is not affected, nor is the awareness. But, yeah, they're still right there. What's affected is they brake earlier for turns and take turns more slowly. So I'm faster than them in corners, but they are as fast or faster than me on the straights, especially since this is team mode with the driver's car, which is on average worse than just about everybody else if you strip it down completely. So Hamilton does get ahead of me, but thanks to DRS and ERS, I'm able to get past him on the main straight again and shut the door on him, squeeze him out, and then retake second place going into T2. And it would continue like that for the next couple of laps, with Hamilton staying right on my rear bumper looking for any place to send it, while Perez is gradually by tenths getting farther and farther ahead of me. In between my tires going off and my broken front wing, I'm having all the trouble keeping my position. And so when it finally comes time to pit, it is a great relief. Although that relief is short-lived.
So pitted and didn't regenerate nearly as much ERS as I thought I was going to.
One stop left in our strategy.
As you can see, I came out of the pits just barely behind Nicholas Latifi. And Nicholas Latifi is not the best driver in the world, and he's in one of the worst cars in F1. So I figured it would be fairly easy to get around him without any major trouble. Of course, that required me to be a bit careful because, yeah, as I said, I'm pretty poor at traffic. And here's evidence. Oh, yeah. He turned in on me after I just got my nose past him, and already my brand new wing is busted. And it didn't seem like much of a tap, but it was just enough. Just enough somehow. And the hell of it is, it doesn't even show up on camera, but it doesn't matter. It affects the driving.
All right, doing it again. We fall into the back of the damn field.
I'm now on a 3-stop strategy. But fortunately, once I had the new wing and the brand new medium tires on, I am going Jesse, making fastest laps and catching up from the back of the pack. Of course, the good thing is Latifi also got damaged, and he had to come into the pits at the same time as I did, so he is safely behind me. As after a few laps, I start catching up with the Haas's and Antonio Giovinazzi of Alfa Romeo. And now this is a bit of trouble because, as I said, getting around one car I can pretty much do, Nicholas Latifi accepted. But this gaggle of 3 is a problem I'm trying to solve, and it's kind of difficult because in addition to me trying to fight them, they're fighting each other, and 3 out of the 4 of us have DRS coming here, so I'm just looking for any position that I can put my car into to get around the lot of them. I managed to nose past Schumacher, but that fight's not over yet. He is right there with me. He falls back as we come into T3 and hit the DRS zone, but he is right there ready to take anything possible. Meanwhile, Mazepin, who is at the head of this gaggle, is pushing us back and trying to block me off, but I'm right there. And Giovinazzi finally falls back as we come into this set of S's, coming up on T9. And now all I have to do is figure out a way past Mazepin. Coming around T10 and onto the next DRS straight. ERS, DRS fully enabled, and the Haas is the most miserable car on the track, so it's no real difficulty to get around him, although I was worried that I was passing in a yellow, but apparently I got the pass done just before we entered the yellow zone. Then after that, Alonso is pretty much by himself. He is no real difficulty to get around so long as I've got plenty of open space. And I've got the open space and a good chunk of ERS, so I burn all of it I can. Coming up here, take him on the outside, give him plenty of space, because you got to leave it to space. Then leave him behind, and we're off. And I believe, yes. Oh, no, not quite a fastest lap, but pretty damn good. Next up is Esteban Ocon, who is in 10th place, which means if I get past him, I will be running in the points. Although I will have to make at least one more pit stop.
Okay, clear.
I don't know whether or not Ocon can make it to the end of the race. I surely cannot. But again, same places I got past Mazepin. I give it the beans, but I get distracted by a call from the pits to change my pit strategy. And as a result, I couldn't get it past him there on that straight. My attention can only be split so far, and it's already being split multiple ways between watching Ocon, keeping track of what gear I need to be in. And so here we go. Another chance here coming along this straight, coming in to the last turn on the course, and Ocon gives me the real hard squeeze, but I keep the foot in, cut the corner just a bit, just barely clear Ocon's front nose, and I've got past him.
Nice move.
Yeah, Ocon gave me a little bit of bump in the back. Too bad, so sad. You shouldn't have crowded me that hard. Then onward we go. Norris has pit. Leclerc has pit. And I get a couple of free positions here for the moment. Remember, I'm going to have to make at least one pit stop because those tires are dying off fast. The tire wear here at Bahrain is a lot more severe than I remember it from F1 2020. Entering the third sector on lap 18, and I'm catching up very quickly to Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, who are in 7th and 6th. Coming on the second to last straight. I decide to save my ERS for some reason. I'm going to go ahead and wait for the DRS zone and try to take both of these guys at one shot. Closing up as close to Gasly as I can. Now the ERS kicks in. Coming up to the DRS zone. Vettel pits, so I'm not going to get the double pass. But he also gave Gasly DRS, so am I going to make it? Am I going to get the pass? Late break send. Coming on the inside, Gasly left me the room. I'm grateful for that, and I'm around him and moving on.
Problem is, I've still got to make one more pit stop. And these tires will not see me through to the end of the race at this wear rate.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the softs.
The end of lap 21, I'm ready. The tires are cooked, and get on the soft tires. I've fallen back a couple of positions again behind Tsunoda and Leclerc, and now it's time to push like hell. Thanks to the 2 wing replacements, the podium is pretty much gone. The usual suspects are long gone. Verstappen's out of the race, but Perez, Hamilton, Bottas, they're still up the road, pretty much uncatchable. I nudged Leclerc here at the beginning of lap 23, but apparently this time I don't actually do wing damage. Thankfully.
Yeah,
should have been a bit more careful. I back off a bit for safety's sake, but I haven't given up yet. ERS engaged, DRS getting that room back. And now it's chasing down Leclerc to get around him. Gasly, though, he's on the one hand, he's miles and miles away, nearly 11 seconds up, but he's on the hard tires. I'm on the softs with plenty of wear still in them. I've got a chance to catch him if I can get around Leclerc quickly. I tag Leclerc again at the rear. Still no wing damage this time, thankfully, but here I am at my favorite hunting ground. DRS, ERS, pour it on, around the outside. Squeeze him a little bit on the hard side, but I left him enough room to stay at least halfway on the track, and I'm around, and it's time to catch Gasly, and I am catching him hand over fist already. In fact, here's why. Fastest laps. Going to be setting one fastest lap, and then I think I'll set another. Of course, by lap 26, I've got Gasly in sight, closing within a second of him, and I'm not giving up on him. Hamilton's in third place. He's nearly 21 seconds ahead. He's gone. But this is for fourth place, and fourth place is still 10 points? Still not, no, it's plenty. And I'm going to get an extra point for fastest lap, provided, of course, I get around Gasly to do it. But I've got DRS, I've got ERS, and Gasly tries to shut the door on the outside for me, but I stick it in. Probably ought to have switched back to the inside, but I wanted the racing line or as close to it as I could, and Gasly did leave me just enough space to make that happen. And so that is pretty much it. Fourth place is where I end up. Sergio Perez wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. Hamilton's in second, Bottas is in third, and for my first race in a fairly crappy car, fourth place, just off the podium,
Okay, pick up
despite
rubber
having
and
to
bring it
replace
home.
the wing twice. And being down to about 19th or 20th place.
Let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. The points that Sergio Perez earned today see him take over the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
Definitely Antonio Giovinazzi, isn't it? No matter what the rest of the field threw at him, he didn't put a foot wrong. Superb drive from him.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
Now comes the downtime between the two races. The next one is the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. And so we're working on development here. Also trying to get Galil up. We've got a couple of new upgrades to the system already. That's good. And before you know it, it's race time. I just barely got through Q2 on mediums because I wanted the medium tire for the early stages here, hoping to go mediums to hards for my strategy. Now, it's important to know that although I don't know the Imola course nearly as well as I know Bahrain, I have had some practice on it. I've driven one race and a few hot laps in F1 2021, but I've driven several races on it against AI in Assetto Corsa. So I have a halfway decent knowledge of the basic layout of the track. Even so, basic layout of the track is not the same level of intimacy as I know Bahrain in this game at this point. And so, when it finally came time to come around the course, I was not in pole position like I was in Bahrain, but I was third. And so, I decided I wanted to get pole position as much as possible to try and lose as few positions as possible off the start, and thereby deal with less traffic. So I went out again, but unfortunately, you might see those drops on the screen right now. Yeah, Q3 ended in rain. And so, obviously, on slick tires with the rain beginning to come down, I was never going to improve my time. And so I pulled the plug before I even finished the lap.
Yes, we're not going to
Fortunately
get
for
anything out of
me,
this lap.
the rain affected the AI drivers the same as it affected me, and so I retained P3, second row, to start off the race. We're going to be third on.
Really seem to enjoy
hello.
that. You made it look easy.
Wouldn't
The
call it
weather
that
hasn't
easy.
been ideal in qualifying. What's your take on it?
At this level, you have to be able to perform in all weather conditions.
Not a great day for your teammate today. What do you think went wrong?
I imagine... I'm not sure. I just hope this doesn't demotivate them too much.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters in red today. They've all turned out for what we have every expectation of being a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. A lap of Imola. Anti-clockwise, of course, unlike most of the Formula One circuits, will take our drivers around 3.1 miles of track. 19 turns, 9 right-handers and 10 left. Drivers will need to be precise at the hairpin at turn 7, given the subsequent uphill section. Without a good exit from that corner, they'll lose a lot of time on that stretch. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
Well, the throttle goes both ways, Crofty. You've got to have the discipline not to try and win the race on the first lap, so always be prepared to lift early and give those around you more space. Trying to be the last of the late breakers with half a dozen cars around you may pay off from time to time, but it's also a great way to lose your front wing.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have old-timer Perez, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, Sainz, Ricciardo, Norris and Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Vettel, Yuki Tsunoda and Stroll, Raikkonen, Russell, Sean Gelael and Nicholas Latifi, Ocon, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid.
Why is
Which of
Giovinazzi
these
in the
talented
back in 2
drivers
straight
will come out
races?
on top today?
Is he getting grid penalties or what?
This is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix. Let's give them a race worth watching.
Oh, sure, no pressure. And yeah, it is mediums to hards. Yeah. And so here we are waiting for the lights to go out, right behind Valtteri Bottas. And if you thought the wheel spin and lack of traction I had at Bahrain was bad, yeah, this is terrible. Losing 4 positions at one go, almost losing a 5th one here to Danny the Rick. But I keep my foot in as long as I can, fight him tooth and nail going through this chicane, and finally shut him out, going around T3. And now it's just a matter of trying to get back the positions I've lost by my horrible, horrible start. And it's not made any better by the fact that pretty much everyone around me is on softs. I'm on mediums. They are going to be, at least for the first couple of laps, the slower tire. So as it is, I managed to catch up to Sainz at the end of the lap, beginning of lap 2, and you have to put that entirely down to the AI being nerfed down to 65. Because performance-wise, I ought not to be even coming close to catching up to these guys. But don't worry, I'll make up for that nerfing later on. By lap 3, same place, sending it past Leclerc going into the chicane, slamming the door hard behind me, making him fall in behind me. Go away, Leclerc.
There's been an incident on track, but officials aren't looking to push for a safety car right now. Just be careful.
Leclerc stayed on my rear wing for a lap or so, but he began to fall back as Danny the Rick finally passed him up on lap 4. Meanwhile, I was just barely, maybe kind of sort of keeping pace to Perez, Bottas, and Hamilton ahead, if anything losing tenths here and there as the laps progressed. Perez in particular in the early stages was driving like a wild man, passing Bottas and making ground all he could, which of course left me to chase Bottas, which apparently I was doing with some little measure of success. Of course, Bottas responded to that success and his tire wear by pitting at the end of lap 9. Meanwhile, I've still got a ways to go. I'm still trying to one-stop this, mediums to hards. Okay, if Hamilton is going on to hards, I have to do something to change things up.
Caution, the virtual safety car has just been deployed due to a buildup of debris on the track.
Shit, I could have... Well, screw it. Look, Hamilton went on to the hards. He's doing a soft to hard, and when I saw that, I realized that I'd taken the wrong strategy. If he could do soft to hard, that meant that I didn't have any advantage. I needed to do a 2-stop onto 2 sets of softs to have a hope in hell of taking the win on this race. And so I stretched out the medium tires a little bit longer, and by the end of the stint, they were screaming. I was oversteering and understeering all over the place, and I was very glad indeed to come in at the end of lap 15 for my tire change. All right, going to the 2-stop now. I came back out in 4th position with a mission. I had to pass up Bottas, Perez, and Hamilton while I still had a tire advantage of any kind, because I would need to make another stop, and I needed to be ahead of Perez and Hamilton, who are going to the end of the race on their hard tires. So I keep pushing as hard as I possibly could, getting a fastest lap in the process. Of course, at one point I did push a little bit too hard, and that should have been my first warning that I needed to maybe drive it a little bit more safely.
Much too late.
But at the time, I was just concerned about losing an opportunity to get past Perez, Bottas having passed Perez at this point. Throwing away time there, hand over fist. And so I just lay the hammer down again, and on the next lap, DRS, ERS, pedal to the floor, and somehow we get past a Red Bull, although not easy, and it took most of the front semi-straight to do it. That overtake, plus Bottas pitting for a set of mediums, put me in second place, chasing down Hamilton, and if I get around him, I need to put some space behind me to have any hope of winning, or that was my thought at the time. Another fastest lap, and I've got Hamilton right in my sights, looking for any opportunity to pass him. I'm a little bit too far back coming into this chicane, but I haven't given up. I need to get past him. I know that I can outbrake him coming into this gravel area, and so I'm going to give it full send. Got to get around him, got to do it quickly. And I understeer badly, and yeah. That is what is known as an unsafe re-entry, and I paid the price for it. That spin cost me about 15 seconds, and more importantly, it did damage to the front wing, which I was not clearly aware of at the time, although I should have been. Fortunately, my scheduled pit stop was only in a couple more laps anyway, so I toughed it out, hoping for the best, trying to claw back any little bit of advantage I could on these waning soft tires. Where are we coming? There was damage to the front wing? I didn't see it.
Go, go, go.
So we're not going to get the podium. We're at risk of dropping it. Well, we're into single digits on points now. Like I said, the phantom wing damage and that spin took me out of contention for the podium, and at this point it was very much damage control, me trying to get back any positions I possibly could. My first target was Pierre Gasly, and I would have liked to have waited until the DRS zone to get around him cleanly, but he was slowing me down far too much, and I needed to take some chances to get around him and put him behind me quickly. So I faked to the outside, he blocked, ducked into the inside, and sent it. With Gasly behind me, my next target was Charles Leclerc, who is on the mediums.
The DRS zone for that.
And I'm still catching him up quickly. The soft tires and the lightweight car are now giving me fastest laps again.
There's 5 laps of fuel remaining.
One after the other. And I was looking forward to that, especially with me finally catching up to him towards the end of lap 29. 3 laps to go. And I'm already thinking about Ricciardo ahead. Do I have enough speed to catch up to him on the hard tires and get another position? DRS, ERS. I'm out of ERS at this point. I send it the same place I sent it earlier in the race, but this time Leclerc is having none of it. Punt. Around I go. Worn tires, cooked rear tires, and gravel are not a good combination, and by the time I finally managed to get myself straightened out and pointed the right direction, Gasly was past me, and I just barely got back on track and up to speed in time to close off Tsunoda.
3 laps of fuel remaining.
And the flat fact of the matter is, with 2.5 laps left, tires shot, well, yeah, that was kind of inevitable. Tsunoda's passed. And now, that's pretty much the end of the race. I don't have enough time to catch up to Tsunoda at this point after that second spin and is on the same lap. I'm just barely able to keep ahead of Ocon, really. So Lewis Hamilton ends up winning the race, and I am dragging in, barely on the lead lap, in a miserable 9th.
Well, that was shit.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
So many mistakes, including several big ones.
And now let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Some amazing talents
And Lance
out on the
Stroll
track
took away the
today.
fastest
But
lap.
Anthony, who would you pick as
How
your
the
driver
hell?
of the day?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Esteban
How
Ocon.
the goddamn hell?
He's just so gifted at getting the most out of his tyres, and he showed that today.
Okay, the fastest time, other than me, well, the second fastest time after me was Bottas with a 1:24, except Lance Stroll somehow got a 1:08 with the DNF on the last lap. What the friggin' hell? What the hell indeed. As you see here, that is an impossible time for Lance Stroll to have set. And yet, when I went back to the replays to see what exactly had happened, it turns out that Lance Stroll did not DNF after all. He finished the race. Although the replay did not show any unusual or abnormal speed, I just can't understand it yet, except that this sometimes happens in F121. The game glitches and you get shafted. So instead of 3 points for this race, I ended up getting 2. After the race, it's time to prepare for the next event on the calendar, which is going to be the Portuguese Grand Prix. One I'm not particularly looking forward to because I am not very good at that track at all. And, we've got our first failure from the Research and Development Department, and little did I know, but that was going to represent a trend in the weeks to come. But to find out more about that, you'll have to watch next time as Kris Overstreet, the Redneck Gaijin, takes on the Algarve International Circuit at Portugal. See you then.